Here's something very disturbing. I want to show you a clip of Liberal Milone. Now, who is Liberal Milone? This was a guy who was auditing Vatican finances. Pope Francis has been adamant about rooting out corruption in the Vatican. And in 2014, put Cardinal Pell in office to start doing some investigation into different dicasteries, into different cardinals. Now, in a video yesterday, I showed that breaking news that it turns out Cardinal Mueller ended up having money that didn't belong to him, that belonged to the dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith, about 200,000 euros. It's alleged that he had that money in his personal account, and there were all kinds of other wild things going on with money in that dicastery, as well as some others. These are allegations. I showed yesterday he did not sufficiently respond to the allegations yet, which is even more disturbing. And if he doesn't sufficiently respond to them, you already know what it is at that point. But be that as it may, I went into detail about that yesterday, and I tied it to, as a few others have as well, like the Pillar, Liberal Milone, who was telling us a few years ago he did, as part of this investigation, he was auditing different departments in the Vatican and ended up uncovering that there were cardinals who were pocketing money. And he described a situation that to the T is the situation that Cardinal Mueller is accused of. So it seems like what he was telling us a few years ago when he came out and said, I uncovered some massive problems with cardinals pocketing money, and he described a particular situation at the time 2 years ago. We didn't know who it was. Well, to the T, it describes what we now know to be accusations made against Cardinal Mueller. Maybe Cardinal Mueller will give us further explanation and show us how this is all one big misunderstanding. But I'll point out, as I did in my video yesterday, he has not done that so far, and it doesn't look good for him. And what he did respond to were some petty accusations, and he left on the table the big ones, such as Pope Francis told him that 200,000 euros that was found in his private account that shouldn't be there, pay it back. Didn't address that claim. Didn't address that allegation. Conspicuous. Well, I pulled up a video from Liberal Milone, and I'll probably go over this in more detail. This was posted a month ago in an interview on EWTN. And he speaks out because he was fired. He was previously reporting directly to the Pope about financial corruption in the Vatican. He was telling them, he was telling Pope Francis directly what was going on. And he was having all these meetings with the Pope, and all of a sudden they stopped. And before, Pope Francis was responding to all of his written correspondence, and all of a sudden it stopped. And Pope Francis just no longer responded to him. So he would write to him, he would try to meet with him, and it's radio silence. And he says, hey, I was, fired from my job for pointing out some corruption here. He doesn't think it was Pope Francis who had anything to do with it, but he accuses some high up cardinals as responsible for that because he was cleaning house and exposing fraud and massive issues. And one of the people that he accuses, turns out the Vatican has also so far convicted him of certain behavior. I'm talking about Cardinal Becciu. In fact, I did a whole video on it. So some of Malone's story is being corroborated. Well, long story short, I want to show you a clip here because he notes himself. He believes the reason why Francis isn't responding to him is not because he's unwilling. Pope Francis was all on board in getting rid of corruption. He's really beginning to suspect that there are some people around Pope Francis that are not giving him access, that are not getting his letters to him. Is that possible? I don't know. Let's watch it together real quick.
Putting money in their own pockets.
Yes.
But that is the same thing, isn't it? Financial mismanagement and corruption at the highest levels. If cardinals are taking money and putting it in their pockets.
Corruption can mean other things as well. What I meant was, they, instead of using money they were receiving for the benefit of the cash street they were using, this money ended up in their own pockets. It doesn't mean that they were actually corrupting others.
But they were defrauding the department to which the money was meant to go to. Princes of the church, next in line to become pope, are lining their own pockets.
Yes, but it happened.
Okay, now, again, Cardinal Mueller is accused of being one of those people. And the evidence against him is very strong. Now, watch what he says later on in this video. Same video, just skipping a little bit to the 25-minute mark. He's asked point blank, Milone, why do you think that Francis isn't responding to you anymore? What do you think is going on? Watch.
Cardinal Parolin called me to ask me why I'd resigned. Now, he was the boss of Cardinal Monsignor Archbishop Becciu. So it was obvious that Cardinal Parolin had not been informed.
And you didn't hear from the Pope after that?
No, but Cardinal Pell spoke to the Pope, and I got the impression from Cardinal Pell that even the Pope was surprised. But I've never spoken to him. I've sent 7 letters to the Pope, hoping to meet with him, to explain. Yeah, but he's met people in the prisons, he's met all sorts of people in the world, but he hasn't met me.
Why do you think that is?
I think that they impeded him.
Did you feel vindicated in a way?
You hear that? I think they impeded him. This guy is not saying Pope Francis is part of the corruption. In fact, he's on Team Francis and saying Pope Francis is trying to get rid of the corruption. But he is saying there are people close to Pope Francis who are impeding him from getting access to certain people and getting certain information. I'm starting to really wonder if that's true. Because I have to ask the question. Now we know Pope Francis is against what took place, although it was pretty obvious he would clearly be against that kind of mockery. We already knew that. But if there was any doubt, now you know Pope Francis clearly is against the mockery that took place at the Olympics opening ceremony. So I had to ask the question, well, why hasn't he said something until now? Could it really be that he just isn't aware? Like, how could that even happen? Again, he's not on social media, but still, you got people around you who are advising you, and sometimes you can speak on issues the same day. So I then find out, okay, well, now we have proof that he's made aware because the Turkish president just spoke to him. And he just had a meeting with Fernandez, and I know Fernandez is aware and he's going to tell him something. I'm sure of it. So at that point, I was just waiting. Okay, Pope Francis, he's got to say something now because now he's clearly aware. And now he comes out and says something. But he didn't say something before until we knew that he was made aware. What does that tell you? That tells you it could be, and it seems to now be a little bit more plausible than I perhaps considered before, that he does have some people around him who are trying to keep him away from certain information and are sabotaging him. And he is partly responsible for that because he has chosen really bad advisors, if that's true. Now, if that's not true, then okay, what does explain? He condemns it, but took forever to do it. What's going on there? There's no rational explanation for him to speak about this like a week later, other than he only recently became aware of it. And if he only recently became aware of such a massive controversy, that tells me there are people around him who are corrupt. And then I have to start asking questions. What else are those people around him doing? And what other information are they keeping him unaware of? And what other information are they perhaps feeding him? Those are questions that need to be further explored, and I will explore them more on this channel. I'm going to go over this other video here with Francis Milone at a later time in more detail, so stick around for that. Go and check out my video that I did yesterday on Cardinal Mueller, because this is tying into that situation. You need to see it. The accusations made against Cardinal Mueller. We're starting to just scratch the surface. I suspect the corruption in the Vatican is more widespread than just these allegations that we explored yesterday. And I suspect there's some pretty high up cardinals who are sabotaging the Pope and doing some pretty bad stuff. We're going to be exploring that more on this channel. All right, everybody, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you think that maybe they're sabotaging the Pope? Maybe that's why only now he's saying something. And do you think that his statement was helpful? Do you think it was productive? Do you think he sufficiently condemned what took place at the Paris Olympics? Do you feel like this was a day late, dollar short kind of stuff? Or do you feel like, no, this was sufficient? I want to hear from you. Put your comments there in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, please consider supporting what I do here at Reason and Theology at my Patreon account, patreon.com/Reason and Theology. You'll get access to extra content, and you'll enable me to continue to do what I'm doing here with this channel. So please consider supporting me there. Okay, we'll see you later. God bless.